Now here's the flute that I've owned the longest. So I've had this for decades. I traded up my main flute to get a fancier one, but this was always something that had a very special sound to me. So what flute do you play Daiwagaku on? Well, the flute that you like the best. And this is my best flute for meditative work, or meditative experience. Of course, it won't play quickly and loudly, so there's a bias here. So this is 2.0. This is very much like the one-note flute. Okay, that's the one note. Now, here's the one note on a flute with holes, carefully made, beautifully made. It's got lacquer on the inside. Oh, it's a different flavor. One thing I'm finding is that there's so much character in the sound that I'd be happy just playing one note for a pretty long time before I got bored, because the slightest variation in your breath will bring out different nuances, different overtones. You see, whether you find a flute and it's in its natural state, it's going to have lots of overtones. It's going to be hard to control it musically, but it's going to be very rich. Let's say the other end of the spectrum, you're a very accomplished and famous shakuhachi maker. What you do is you build the flute so it has overtones. So that's a very interesting proposition. You see, these lighter, smaller flutes, or I shouldn't say lighter, but these shorter, cleaner, modern flutes have less in terms of overtones. So all of a sudden, while you're playing Daiwagaku, you're caught up in the actual sound. You're getting feedback from your own playing, and that's changing your experience of playing the piece. So I'll try it out on Daiwagaku. So I feel like I went effortlessly up into the high octave, and I didn't feel an increase of emotional intensity. I felt the same calmness, but the notes are higher. And so this is influencing the way I play this piece. And it's influencing the interpretation. So you'll play a piece on a flute and you'll know how to interpret the piece for that flute. So it does help to have more than one flute. Mostly a 1.8 and maybe something longer. So you'll be able to get a different angle on playing the flute. So how are we in the high octave? So that he at the end trailed out very nicely. And it's harder for me to do that on some of the flutes, but this one's easy. So because it's easier to play, I relax. And but because it has such character, such personality, I end up being captured by that. So this is interesting. The flute is influencing me emotionally, but it's also helping me create art in performing this for you. So I'm going to move onward. Now, even though that flute is 100 years old, this is the 19th century. This was from the Meiji Restoration, 1867, 70, 80. So I look at this flute, before I even play it, I see that these holes are not perfectly round. If I look inside of it, I'll see that it's painted, but it's not really smoothed out all the way. So that means that there's going to be distortion if you try to play it loud. It means it's not even intended to be ever played loud. This is very different from these others, especially the ones I started at the beginning of this video. Two totally different makers. The flutes were very similar, one being more of a performance. The Rani 17 was a performance flute, and the Chinone was a personal flute, but can also be used in performance. So what did music sound like in the 19th century for the shakuhachi? Well, when you play this flute, this one, here, I'll just do it. Oh, that's far away. And so this is a lot happening here, and I'm reaching, but I'm lost in the process of reaching. And I just want to say that I said the shakuhachi was humbling, but it's important to not get too good, because you'll lose the feeling of being a beginner. And you should always feel like this is something new, this is something fresh. And maybe you play every day, maybe you've played for years, and you lose that freshness. Well, all is lost. Maggie Newman said that the problem is, after 40, 50 years, you're focusing on form. I'm talking about doing the same piece or the same set of movements in Tai Chi or the martial arts, doing the same set of movements for decades and decades. You're so focused on perfecting that form, and you lose the heart. And so the struggle, people write in and they say they're struggling, but that's good, because one day you may lose that sense of struggle, but you should never lose it. You should keep in mind that feeling of being in the moment and making this piece happen right now. Now the final flute is a long flute. It's light. It's lighter than all of those flutes, even the plastic ones. And these tend to crack right away. This has been bound, so I'm lucky. And you'll have to talk to a flute maker. To me, it almost feels like make them, and then one of them was very special. Maybe burn the rest. This one is kind of burned, it's hardened over the fire to keep from cracking. So once again, we're looking at something like this here, something very simple. Although this one here is special, and I'll just play it. this seems to play itself. And this is maybe the best of all of these. But what about the high octave? I get both a feeling of comfort from just hearing the sound, but I'm also feeling relaxed because I'm finding it easy to play. And this is really a perfect flute for this. It's some of the long flutes can be heavy, and so this one's not. So this would encourage me to spend, I mean, hours. I was going to make the video yesterday, but I ended up playing the shakuhachi for 3 hours yesterday, and so today I'm making the video. This is the kind of flute. It's not going to work for many music forms, but here's why it works. Because there's only one way to play it. You just blow, and you must play open. You must play with your lips relaxed to just get a sound. When you try to do much else with it, it's not going to do it. So these other flutes give you incredible amount of range and possibilities, and you feel superpowers that you can do things that you've never been able to do with the shakuhachi. So it encourages you to go into those details and find out what this piece is all about. This one here, none of that's happening. You just blow and the beauty flows from it. So this is really maybe the best of the bunch, but I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. So I want you to get out your flute, and if you've been playing as loud as possible, maybe that's how that flute should be played. If it should always be played softly, so it doesn't feel edgy, maybe that's how it should be played. You know, these older flutes were never intended to be played loudly, although I have flutes here intended for the concert hall and can be played softly, beautifully for this piece, but they can also be played loudly. So there's a lot to explore. If you have just one flute, there's a lot to explore. So good luck, and this will ultimately and finally conclude the 3 lessons for Daiwagaku. If you missed the other 2, take a look at them. There's a lot here, and hopefully you'll move on to more pieces for Zen. I'll present some in the future, but they get technical. So I just wanted you to have a really firm foundation of what the shakuhachi can really be as a tool of Zen Buddhism, and what that really means in the way you interact with the flute, the way you position yourself between, you know, here, your head and your heart and your body. That relationship, that's where I'm going with this. That relationship must always be in balance. And the shakuhachi can be a key to this type of centeredness. So thanks for listening. Bye.